attack Maiduguri-Kano Road. Buhari regrets signing a budget he didn't like. Trump does an about-face on issue of separation of immigrant families. And in sports, Japanese World Cup fans clean up stadium.
This is ANN News.
I am Rotimi Akintunde. Fatalities have been recorded at the scene of suicide bomb attack close to an Air Force base in Maiduguri, Borno State, northeastern Nigeria. 3 suicide bombers were reported to have detonated their devices on Maiduguri-Kano Road on Wednesday evening. 4 female suicide bombers were reported to have hit a village on the outskirts of Maiduguri on Saturday. The suicide bombers and another woman were killed in that explosion, while 13 others were injured. President Muhammadu Buhari has finally signed the 2018 9 trillion naira appropriation bill into law. Notably absent at the signing ceremony were the Senate President Bukola Saraki and the House Speaker Yakubu Dogara. Buhari said he was compelled to sign the budget to keep the economy running. He berated the National Assembly for cutting the budget estimates, especially in key sectors, which he said would have impacted more on the economy.
I have decided to sign the 2018 budget in order not to further slow down the pace of recovery of our economy, which has doubtlessly been affected by the delay in passing the budget. However, it is my intention to seek to remedy some of those critical of these issues through a supplementary and/or amendment budget, which I hope the National Assembly will be able to expeditiously consider.
Meanwhile, the National Assembly shrugged off concerns raised by the President over the 2018 budget the lawmakers passed. Speaking with State House correspondent moments after the signing, the Senate Deputy Majority Leader Bala Ibn Naala noted that had the budget been passed the way it was sent to the National Assembly, constituents would have been pitched against their elected legislators. Also fielding questions from the newsman, Chief Whip of the House of Representatives, Alhassan Ado Doguwa, noted that President Buhari's observations were critical to the implementation of the budget. Nigeria now has new judges as President Buhari approved the appointment of 12 appeal court new justices, 9 for the Federal High Court and 7 for the Federal Capital Territory High Court. The appointments followed recommendations by the National Judicial Council. The trial started in Lagos on Wednesday in the alleged 322 million naira fraud credited to Senator Peter Nwoboshi. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has leveled a 2-count charge of money laundering and fraud against Nwoboshi. 2 companies, Golden Touch Construction Project Limited and Swimming Electrical Limited. Nwoboshi had pleaded not guilty and was granted bail on self-recognizance. The Nigerian military said on Wednesday there was no evidence that Islamic State in Iran and Syria, ISIS, had sneaked in fighters from Syria to support Boko Haram terrorists in Nigeria, as reported last week. Director of Defense Information, Brigadier General John Agim, assured Nigerians in a statement that the Nigerian Armed Forces would ensure that no part of the country will be under threat. The courts have refused to stop the convention of the All People's Congress, contrary to a legal action instituted by some aggravated members of the party to stop the convention that comes up this weekend. Justice Sylvanus Oji of the FCT High Court shut down their case. He said stopping the National Convention of the APC will do injustice to others who are not parties to the suit. The aggrieved party, Udo Ibe from Abia State, had dragged the APC and Independent National Electoral Commission INEC before the court, asking for an order of mandatory injunction to compel INEC to stop recognizing APC as a political party under the 1999 Constitution or the Electoral Act of 2010. The National Electricity Regulatory Commission, NERC, a National Agency for Science and Engineering Infrastructure, NASEN, will collaborate in the distribution of meters in Nigeria. Executive Vice Chairman of NASENI, Professor Mohammed Aruna, said the agency has been doing some research on meters and will collaborate with NERC for way forward. He said meters found in the country are of different models and from different countries. He said there is no standardization, but his agency will find a solution. The so-called sex for Marx professor Richard Akindele has been suspended by the Governing Council of Obafemi Awolowo University in Ile-Ife. Vice-Chancellor Professor Eyitope Ogunbolede confirmed the suspension pending the findings of an investigative panel. He said the University Senate had found that Akindele had an inappropriate relationship with his student, which was established through their conversations and audio recordings. His response to query, oral evidence, and printed WhatsApp conversations given to the committee. The University of Lagos says the rector of Osun Polytechnic did not obtain a Bachelor of Science degree from this institution and that the university has no record of him. There was a crisis at the Polytechnic, which is owned by the community in Osun State, over the rector's PhD certificate. Most of the professors the rector had cited as his teachers, while at the University of Lagos had denied any knowledge of him. Ecuadorian ambassador to Nigeria, Leopoldo Robayo, has said that Ecuador and Nigeria have agreed to sign a visa-free agreement to strengthen bilateral relations. He was visiting the permanent secretary. Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he said the visit was to strengthen the ties between his country and Nigeria. The federal government says it is taking every step possible to address the issue of porous borders. One of those steps is the commissioning of a new curriculum and training manual for foreign institutions of the Nigerian Immigration Service. Minister of Interior Abdurrahman Dambazo says the manual would help personnel in delivering efficient services for the good of the country, as well as to solve the daily problems posed by the country's porous borders. 34 Nigerians, including 2 females, have been deported from the United States. They were charged with offenses ranging from narcotics to immigration-related issues. We will be back after these messages. Stay with us.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down, keep walking to the left, yes?
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back to Africa Now. Algeria has turned off its internet nationwide during high school exams to tackle cheating. Both mobile and fixed lines will go off an hour after the start of each high school diploma exam to stop leaks. Internet blackout will continue throughout the exam season. Education Minister Nouria Bengabot said that Facebook would also be blocked across the country throughout the entire period. Somaliland's President Musa Bihi Abdi has pardoned a king imprisoned in April. Osman Mahmoud Boumediene was sentenced to 5 years in prison for attending the inauguration of a monarch in neighboring Puntland. Puntland and Somaliland are at loggerheads over a territory along their border. Meanwhile, human rights organizations have condemned the self-declared Republic of Somaliland of suppressing free speech and arresting critics of the administration. 10 people were killed and another 10 injured when a Zambia dump for copper mining waste collapsed on Wednesday. Copperbelt Police Chief Chanti Katanga confirmed the incident. The main opposition United Party for National Development, UPND, said the deaths could have been avoided. The presidential spokesman Amos Chanda said the government would investigate the incident. Zambia is Africa's second largest copper producer. The African National Congress has confirmed that its Member of Parliament, Sibusiso Radebe, was shot dead in Gauteng, South Africa on Tuesday night. Brigadier Mathapelo Peters said police were searching for 2 people responsible for the politician's murder. Authorities say the motive for the killing is yet unknown. Whistleblowers have reported that aid workers at charity Madison Sans Frontier used local prostitutes while working in Africa. A former female employee said a colleague said it was possible to trade medication for sex. The charity noted that it does not tolerate abuse, harassment or exploitation. Sources say some women spoke for fear of being blacklisted by foreign aid agencies, among which there can be a large crossover of staff. One of the world's biggest foreign aid agencies, known as Doctors Without Borders, said allegations were made against logistical staff and not doctors or nurses at MSF. 3 people have reportedly been killed in the Gambia after police shot them. They were protesting against pollution. Reports say the protesters had been taking part in a protest in Faraba Banta to bring attention to the sand mining industry polluting rice fields. A researcher at Amnesty International, Sabrina Mathari, said the killings conjured up painful memories from Gambia's recent history. President Adama Barrow has ordered full investigation. Ethiopia's Prime Minister has thanked Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki for accepting his olive branch in a recorded video. Abiy Ahmed addressed his counterpart in the short film while visiting communities displaced by ethnic clashes in the south of the country. The message comes after Afwerki promised to send a delegation to Ethiopia for talks aimed at ending their 16-year border dispute. Earlier this month, Ethiopia's ruling coalition announced it would fully abide by 2002 border ruling to cede territory to Eritrea. More than 300 Tanzanian members of parliament are taking HIV tests in public today. This is to encourage more people to get tested. Prime Minister Kassim Majaliwa directed local government leaders to take part in the HIV test to encourage the public. Majaliwa said this will allow those found with the virus to start medication immediately. Statistics by Tanzania Commission for AIDS reveal an estimated 1.4 million people living with HIV, but only 52% of them are aware of their conditions. A Cameroon government report says Anglophone separatists have killed at least 80 members of the security forces and more than 100 civilians in their campaign for independence. The report calls for an emergency aid plan of more than $20 million. The report agrees with international criticism over the government crackdown in the northwest and southwest regions, home to the English-speaking population of 22 million. UN says 160,000 people have been internally displaced and 20,000 have sought refuge in Nigeria. Beg your pardon. South Sudan's President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar have met on Wednesday for the first time in 2 years. At that time, a peace deal collapsed and fighting resumed. An Ethiopian chief of staff on his Twitter account confirmed that Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed hosted a private dinner for the two leaders. Ethiopia has been a key player in the regional bloc IGAD's faltering peace process for South Sudan. The oil-producing nation gained independence from North Sudan in 2011. Fighting followed 2 years later. Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has announced his government's measures to secure the population. The president was addressing a special parliament on Wednesday after the murder of a prominent legislator, Ibrahim Binga, 2 weeks ago. Museveni told Parliament the police will be equipped with drones, light helicopters, motorbikes, and others. Stay with us, we will be back with sports.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Wait, stop.
You okay, lean to your right. Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. African News Network, ANN, fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. Watch ANN News on MITV. ANN, in a truly African spirit. Shining our eyes on breaking news, whether in the east or in the west, with Al-Shabaab in Somalia and Boko Haram in Nigeria, with turbulence in the north and agitation in the south. Wherever you live in Nigeria, wherever news happens in Africa, we've got it covered. ANN News, connecting Africans in a truly African spirit.
Welcome back. This is ANN News. Now some international news. And what many see as an about-face, President Donald Trump has signed an executive order that will end the practice of separating family members who are apprehended while illegally entering the United States. The order would detain parents and children together. European Union tariffs on products from the United States will go into effect on Friday. The European Union Commission announced on Wednesday it had approved initial retaliatory tariffs on U.S. export worth about $3 billion. The tariffs will hit American products including motorcycles, orange juice, bourbon, peanut butter, motorboats, cigarettes, and denim. They are a response to Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum exports from Europe. And finally tonight, a case of holy anger. The former Archbishop of Washington, Cardinal Theodore McCarrick, has been removed from ministry following allegations that he sexually abused a teenager nearly 50 years ago when he was a priest in New York. McCarrick is 87 now and is one of the most prominent American cardinals active on the international stage. And the charges make him one of the most high-profile Catholic leaders to face allegations of abuse. That does it for us this evening on ANN News. Thanks for joining us. For details on these and other stories, visit our website, annafrica.net, and our social media platforms, ANN Africa TV. I am Rotimi Akintunde. Have a pleasant evening.
Are you sure you want to do this?
Adam, go and bring us your husband. Okay, hello baby.
We're in this together, okay? Can you hear me? Keep coming forward.
Stop.
You okay, Lizzie? You alright? Keep walking down. Keep walking to the left. Yes.
You're almost here.
Keep going.
You are here. Wow, you did it.
I'm just so glad I didn't have to use my cane to do this.
And I am so glad no other man got you before me. Let me be your eyes.
We will never stop working to give you a network you can rely on, so you can enjoy life's special moments. MTN, everywhere you go.
There is a new all-news network on the scene in Nigeria to give news from a purely news perspective and to promote free information flow across Africa. African News Network, ANN, fresh views, unbiased, bold, with a purely African view. Watch ANN News.